recognize it? Huh?
It's the announcements.
This is
What's that?
Brett's Tallis from Kramer. What? No one had to come home.
He left his phone. Couldn't find it.
Why doesn't he?
So he and Alex.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's nice for me to be back. I've had 2 weeks at camp, so that means that if you'd like to jump up at any time during the service and high-five your neighbor, or if you want to, we are expected. I'll tell you, at camp, the kids know all of the prayers. They do no English at camp. The camp that we go to, it's all in Hebrew. The kids know all the words. They clap, they snap, they have special symbols. Alex is going next week, right? Alex, raise your hands. Everyone knows you're here. Alex is going next week, right? So he's going to go up there. He's doing his first time at camp, so he'll get to see it. So you're welcome to be a little more rowdy this evening. It won't bother me. To start, we're going to invite Skip and Audrey, representatives of our executive board, to share greetings and announcements.
Thank you. Thank you to Bob Lazaro and Marcia Friedman for sponsoring the wine and welcome and saying our Shabbat blessings and happy birthday, Bob.
A few words to say.
Copies of our annual report have been mailed to members. Once you've received it, please take a chance to read it because it contains some time-sensitive, high-holiday information. We are looking for volunteers for the Pride March and to staff Temple Israel's booth at the Pride Festival on Saturday, August 26th. If you are interested, please contact Joe Gardner.
Thanks. We can compliment Rabbi and Camp Kathy for the wonderful service in advance in anticipation. And also compliment Rabbi on his camp tan.
Yeah, sure.
I'm honored to be up here with Audrey representing your board tonight, and we're standing in for Linda Barr, your temple president, who's attending a wedding in Chicago this weekend. As your members, we try to serve you by supporting our wonderful clergy, our administrative staff like Tavi and Kim, and the religious school leadership. We also serve by supporting this facility and reaching out into our community. And speaking of community outreach, we're having our first joint Temple ISAC picnic. It's August 13th. You should have received an email today about it. I'm just shouting it out again. We've been participating in joint learning sessions over the last 6 to 8 years. All food is provided. There's a link on the email to reserve a spot so we know how much food is needed. Please don't bring your own food. We're trying to respect our halal traditions. Food is our food. Our donation is courtesy of Brotherhood, Sisterhood, and the Social Action Committee. Our side, we're going to be bringing some Middle Eastern food that should be very good, and they'll be bringing some food that represents the Indian subcontinent. So thanks to Social Action, Sisterhood, and Brotherhood, and it'll start at 11:30, finish by 2:30 at the call to prayers. And if you hear the call to prayers, it'll remind us that our faith traditions started in the same part of the world many, many centuries ago. That sound always makes me feel that way, the sound of the Hazan. Speaking of centuries ago, Julie and I joined Temple in 1986. I was a fallen Catholic, didn't realize how far I had strayed, but wholeheartedly I was welcomed by Rabbi Horowitz and my neighbor at the time, Gus Gertz of blessed memory. And I converted a few years later. And then a few years after that, I was looking at our children beginning to ramp up into religious school, the B'nai Mitzvah training, etc. And I looked at all the people who were serving us on the boards and essentially taking care of our children by doing that so that they had a place to learn. And I thought, I felt obligated to begin doing that. Served several terms on the board after that, helped in the fundraising and planning on the move out here, and I remain on the board with great people like Audrey in order to serve you. And we've got a great team of people in the executive committee as well. But it is an honor and a privilege to do that, but even more so, I hope the younger members feel that same opportunity, or see that same opportunity to support other people's families and children through Temple. By supporting Temple, we're supporting a lot of families and a lot of people in growth and learning. And I just wanted to take a second to thank you for allowing us to continue that.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, Skip and Audrey. So let's support each other. Turn to your neighbors, especially if you're here for the first time. If you'll raise your hand. We like to. Now you guys have to dance around the room and do. No, I'm just kidding. We just want to make sure guests make sure that you introduce yourself to our guests. Say Shabbat Shalom to those around you, and we'll start our service.
You're going to call Bob and Marcia.
We invite Bob and Marcia up to light our candles and hold up our Kiddush cup. Oh, do we need a lighter? Oh, right here.
We're good.
Yeah, you want to do it the old-fashioned way, or you
O source of light and truth,
You can light
creator of
this.
the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Can I lift the Kiddush cup? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'orei peri hagafen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah banu v'shabbat kodesho v'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereishit ki hu
Be'ahava uvratzon himchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. Chaim.
Chaim.
So we take a moment to walk back through our week, to remember where we were 7 days ago. If we got to have Shabbat last week, perhaps we were too busy, perhaps we were traveling, we were somewhere else. We think about the days we've had since then, working, talking, moving around, and we make this a moment to separate, a moment to stop and be together as a community, and a moment to embrace this day that we've been given. Page 20 in our prayer books, or sorry, first page 10 in our prayer books, and then page 20, Hinei Matov, we say words from the Psalms that we're so glad we can all be together, followed by the words of Lecha Dodi to welcome Shabbat into our space.
Hinei matov u'manayim sheberachim gam yachad. 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 Repeat after me. How good it is.
How good it is,
How sweet it is.
how sweet it
Together
is,
to be together on this day. How good it is.
how good it is,
How sweet it is.
how sweet it is.
To be together on this day.
Hinei matov u'manayim
sheberachim
gam yachad. Hinei matov u'manayim sheberachim gam yachad.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleikum. How good it is,
How good it is,
how sweet it is
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is
how sweet it is.
to be together on this day.
Hinei matov u'manayim
sheberachim gam
yachad. Hinei matov u'manayim sheberachim gam yachad. Page 20.
Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi
Likrat kala
b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Lecha dodi likrat kala
b'nei
Shabbat nekabela.
Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad.
Hishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad Shemo echad
L'shemo tiferet
B'litila Lecha dodi
Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Lecha dodi likrat
and face the entrance to our parking lot and to the entrance of your home. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam v'simcha u'tzor chola, tochem unei am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi, back around, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala. We remain standing. We turn to the Chatzi Kaddish on page 26. Vikada, vikada, shemei rabba, v'yamad yivrach yirtzei, v'yamlik malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, bagala, ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עולמי עולמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא, ויאמרו אמן. We remain standing for our call to worship, our Baruch Hu.
Page 28. Sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. You taught Torah to those whose names I bear. Teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Pages 34 and 35. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Marushim, Kivon Malchuto, Le'olam Havaed. Please be seated and join me on the next page with the V'yahavta. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך
וקשרתם לאות על ידיך
והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים
אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, and that the winding way to that promise passes through a wilderness. So too we believe there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 40, the words of Mikomocha, our prayer and song for freedom.
Our prayer for peace as we tuck our children in at night and pray that they wake up with a self-renewed or hashkivenu on page 42.
Sukkot shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. Amen, 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 O Adonai. Page 46 in our prayer books, we turn to our most personal prayers as we begin by asking just for the ability to be able to pray authentically, and then we'll share the words that call upon the names of our ancestors, and finally, in this series of pages that make up our Amidah, we'll pray silently as we offer the prayers that we write ourselves. Please rise, page 46.
Adonai sifatai tiftach
Ufi agitahilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaNorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei וזוכר שתי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני,
מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע,
מוריד הטל,
מחוקר חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני לחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום, יהללוך סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Please be seated as we turn to page 57. This prayer on page 57 is in Hebrew, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu. It's a prayer that, when translated literally, it asks God to find favor with us. But I've always been drawn to this creative version at the bottom of page 57. It asks, rather than God to find favor with us, for God to find what we need, or for us to find what we need in a godly way. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence, to do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers, and we pray that there we may find you, along with courage and insight and endurance, that our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. May we know that we're never alone in our joys, in our anxieties, in our struggles, and our achievements. We turn now to page 60 as we pray for the greatest sense of peace to find its way to our world.
Please take a few moments for silent reflection.
Having prayed for peace, we now turn to offer peace to those who are suffering, fighting their own battles, personally, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So we share the words of Misha Barak, page 253 in our prayer books. We'll invite you to share any of the names of those loved ones whom you'd like to think of at this time in the middle of the prayer. Shabbat Shalom. So as many of you know, when I'm in the car a lot, as I have been these last couple weeks, I get to listen to books a lot, or podcasts, and so I've been listening to the book Bomber Mafia by Malcolm Gladwell. Anybody read Bomber Mafia? Listen to it? Yeah. So it's as Malcolm Gladwell's books are, it's filled with stories and unknown facts, but it's quite disturbing about the way in which World War II played out and how we came to win the war. And at one point he's very focused on Air Force General LeMay, who was at one time in charge of the Western Front, in charge of the war in the Pacific, and who really is known for managing the campaign of bombing Japan. And LeMay had looked up to a World War I general, General Stilwell, and he had always wanted their paths to cross, and eventually their paths crossed a couple times, and LeMay sat with Stilwell, his, in some ways, an idol or a mentor for him, and wanted to explain to him this new innovation of aerial warfare and how impressive it was for the American ability to win these world wars. And so one night they stay up all night with General LeMay trying to convince General Stilwell of how amazing it is that you can fly planes and fight your enemy without putting troops on the ground. And after staying up all night, General Stilwell still doesn't get it. He can't understand, because he comes from a previous generation that fought in World War I, he can't understand, and he had gone to West Point and was trained in warfare on the ground. He can't understand how you would fight a war from the air. That's just not how war works. Until the end of the war, when the Japanese surrender, the two men are invited to stand on the shores of Japan, and he looks out and he can see the destruction the mass destruction that was caused by these bombs in the air. And he says to General LeMay, "I understand now, but prior to this, it was just beyond my imagination." And I want to sit with that thought for a moment, because I think it's telling of no matter how much we want somebody to understand something, sometimes there are some things that are simply beyond what we can imagine could be true, and until we see it with our own eyes, we won't believe it. The Torah portion this week is, we're getting well into Deuteronomy, where Moses is retelling the story in his own words. And it starts with these images of idealism, these promises. God will favor you and bless you and multiply you, blessing the issue from your womb and your produce from the soil. No one will be infertile. You'll have unnumbered livestock. There'll be no illness, no sickness among you, no diseases, and all of your enemies will lose to you. We read these words sometimes and we say, well, this is an empty promise. It's impossible. You can't promise somebody that everything's just going to be perfect. But what if we think of it a different way? Not that this is literally what would happen, but what if it is that as you enter into this new place and you're about to cross over the Jordan River, you can't imagine what will happen. You can't see the goodness that will come. And so I'm going to try and paint a picture for you, but I know you're not going to believe it. No matter what I say, you won't understand what the future could look like until you see it yourself. But know that there could be some amazingly wonderful, good things that happen down the road. In a book of stories by Sidney Greenberg, there's an anonymous quote that reads, "Some minds are like concrete, all mixed up and permanently set. And as we grow older, it's very tempting to develop a permanent mindset. But minds, like parachutes, are valuable only when opened." If we look back through history, I think in some ways we could say it's easy to list the things that were unimaginable, but that today we take for granted. Solving the AIDS crisis or polio, or the innovations that we have in communication or in travel, to say that you could in one moment talk to somebody on a screen who's across the world as if they were sitting right in front of you. Not many years ago, people would say unimaginable, impossible. Even I remember the days when cell phone calls were $1.25 a minute, and you didn't make them. So I want to share with you one of the joys that I get to have by being at camp. Because in many ways, camp is the most idealistic space we have. And the privilege that I get to be there means that I believe I get to see the future that the rest of us don't get to see yet. So here was my first day at camp. It's my favorite image from my last 2 weeks. I sit down in a space not so different than this. It was a prayer space, except it was in the round, and so you're sitting across from other people, and of course it's camp benches, not nice chairs. And I don't know any of the campers yet. It's day one. The first camper is sitting on the bench, a young boy with a Blackhawks shirt on, because most of the kids are from Chicago. Sitting next to him is a camper that's clearly transgender, who I later found out prefers the use of the pronoun they. Next to that camper is a camper from Uganda. Some of you may know that there's a small Jewish tribe that was discovered about 20 years ago in Uganda. One of the members of that tribe is now in rabbinical school in New York, and her daughter joined us at camp this summer. So we've got Blackhawks shirt, transgender camper, black camper from Uganda. Then there was the head counselor of the unit, also transgender. Then there was a camper with purple hair, half shaved off, wearing headphones. I say wearing headphones because headphones aren't allowed at camp, except if you need an accommodation, because camp is loud, camp is busy, camp is anxiety filled, and so there are some campers who have accommodations where when it gets loud they can put headphones on, and so this girl was wearing her headphones. And finally there was an Israeli camper, because there were a number of campers who came over from Israel who were part of Reformed congregations in Israel. So here you have on one bench what some of us might say is a lot of the colors of the rainbow. And to many of us, I think we would say, if we were to think of that in our congregations today, that might be a little unimaginable. Not because we're bigoted or racist or homophobic, but just because we don't think that that's what our congregations are going to look like. But I would tell you that not a eye was looking or sound was made or any sort of difference was noticed. This is just how the next generation is. This is normal to them. This is how they live life. And these kids weren't all grouped together because they were different. They just, if I were to have been looking at a different bench, it would have been a different group of the rainbow of colors. And so I think it's a decent image of what being Jewish will look like in the future. This is how our kids are growing up. It's how they're comfortable. It's how they see their Judaism. It is the place where they can feel most themselves, whoever that self is. I'm going to close with a brief story. It's from the tradition of Chelm. Some of you may know the stories from Chelm. They're intended to be unrealistic and a bit of a farce, but to have somewhat of a moral at the end. And so the story is that a teacher asks two students, do you know which way do you grow? Do you grow from your feet up or from the head down? The first student says, well, I know for a fact that you grow feet up because I just bought my son a bar mitzvah suit 6 months ago, and it came time for his bar mitzvah, and the pants were too short. So clearly you grow feet up. To which the other student says, absolutely not. I'm certain that you grow head down, because every time I see people walking, their feet are on the same level, but their heads are at different heights. So clearly you grow head up. To which the teacher gives the moral of the story. The truest measure of growth is not head up, head down, or feet up, but rather inside out. We grow most when we go out into the world, become aware of the lives of brothers and sisters of other people, and realize that that's the direction in which we grow, by noticing exactly how different we are and how much we have to learn from other people. And so there are unimaginable things in our future. I think some of them are going to be amazing. I feel very lucky I got to see some of them, and Alex is going to see some of them. And then some of those people will grow up to marry each other, like the Pinskys, because I think they met at camp, right? How old? How old were you when you met at camp? 10. See? Unimaginable. He proposed right there. And here they are. So for all the unimaginable things in our future that could be great blessings, I hope we get to see them in our lifetime. And I hope we can remain optimistic, as there are things we can't imagine that will in fact be beautiful for us. Shabbat Shalom. We'll turn to page 282 as we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol,
Tegedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'goraleinu k'chol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, u'mishachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'nemar
V'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz.
Vayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. Please be seated. Take a moment now to remember those that we've lost in our life as our thoughts turn to those who've departed our earth, our loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those whose graves are unmarked. The people of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We remember them as we share the names of those that we've lost recently in our community, Judith Levine and Stanley Greenwald. So too, we recall the names of those that we lost at this time in years past: Kemal Atakman, Joseph Balan, Albert Bello, Minnie Brodsky, Dolores Dolly Droz, Ann Ehrenberg, Alice Fawcett, Maurice Goldman, Doris Marks Green, Rosa Hollander, Emil Korak, Gertrude Kotler, Jean Lazaro, Francis Lebovich, Mary Frost Levin, Nathan Morris, Alvin Neisser, Benjamin Pinsky, Robert Union, Michelle Walker, Shirley Surloff Weinstein, and Rose Wise. If there are names I mispronounced or names you'd like to share, please share them. Joe.
Joyce Rio Williams.
We rise, page 294, as we share the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah v'alma divrach kirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chai echon u'vyom echon u'chayei dekol beit Yisrael b'gala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei dekudusha b'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, huya asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world, as we say. Amen.
Amen.
Having blessed and remembered those that we walked through life with, we now turn to our neighbors. We can connect with them if you would like, as we bless each other with the words of the priests. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious unto you. May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace. Please be seated. Before we conclude our service, we want to invite people to share any good moments that they've had in this last week, or even in the weeks prior since you've last been at temple. Any exciting moments?
Bob's birthday.
We're gonna get to Bob's birthday. That's the cherry on top.
I converted this morning.
Yeah, Lauren. The most newly unwrapped Jewish woman in the world is right here, right in front of you. And Daphne, her daughter, converted with her. So we were at the mikveh this morning. Wonderful. Okay.
Just got back from a 1,900-mile road trip with my grandson.
Just got back from a 1,900-mile road trip with your grandson. Why didn't you go further? You can.
Because he's going to the University of Utah for a master's.
Oh, wonderful! Great time. How many days were you together?
We were together 5 days.
5 days with your grandson. That's wonderful. And for milestone birthdays, we celebrate Bob, and we wish you a happy birthday and many, many more.
Thank you.
So let's join together in the words of Shakyanu.
Baruch atah Adonai Elohim. Here. Thank you. Baruch Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam,
hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shalom aleinu, shalom aleinu, shalom aleinu, ve'al kulam. Shalom aleinu, shalom aleinu, shalom aleinu, ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, salam, salam. Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, salam. Shalom aleinu, shalom aleinu, shalom aleinu, ve'al kulam. Shalom aleinu.